If you think attraction is about being interesting, you're already behind. Interesting men compete. Grounded men don't. Women don't choose the man who talks the best. They respond to the man who feels the most stable in the room. And stability isn't loud. The uncomfortable truth is this: every time you rush, explain, or seek reassurance, you're signaling insecurity, even if your words sound confident. That signal hits her nervous system instantly. In this video, I'm going to show you 6 quiet behaviors that separate men who are felt from men who are tolerated, not through effort, but through emotional regulation. Once you see where attraction actually begins, you'll understand why most men lose it the moment they try to control it. Number 1. Staying calm in chaotic environments. Modern social spaces are loud by design. Too much stimulation, too many voices competing, too many men trying to be noticed at the same time. And when pressure rises, most men respond the same way. They talk more, move faster, react harder. They mistake visibility for value. You see it everywhere. The nervous jokes, the constant commentary, the need to prove relevance in every moment. That behavior isn't confidence. It's stress leaking through the cracks. And women feel it immediately, long before they consciously label it. Here's what most men don't understand. When the environment becomes chaotic, calm becomes rare. And whatever is rare automatically carries weight. A man who stays grounded when the room is loud signals something powerful without saying a word. He's not overwhelmed. He's not scrambling. He's not trying to manage how he's perceived. He's observing. He's centered. He's in control of himself. And that reads as capability. From a psychological and biological standpoint, this matters more than charm ever will. A woman's nervous system is constantly scanning for stability, not excitement, not entertainment, stability. Because calm under pressure has always meant one thing: survival. When a man doesn't panic, doesn't overreact, doesn't rush to fill silence, her body reads him as safe. And safety isn't boring. Safety is magnetic when it's paired with restraint. Calm communicates leadership because leaders don't flinch at noise. They don't need to dominate the room. The room adjusts to them. This is why the man who speaks the least often draws the most attention. He isn't trying to regulate the environment. He's regulating himself. And that regulation creates contrast. While everyone else is reacting, he's choosing. Here's the part most men resist hearing. The harder you try to control how you're perceived, the more chaotic you become internally. And women sense that disconnect instantly. Your words might say confidence, but your nervous system tells the truth. A calm man doesn't need to announce his presence. He doesn't chase validation through performance. He doesn't rush to prove intelligence, humor, or importance. His stillness does the filtering for him. And that's the truth bomb most men miss. A man who is truly calm doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. His composure is the proof. The moment you stop trying to manage impressions, attraction has room to emerge. But the moment you start pushing, explaining, reacting, you collapse that space. You turn tension into noise. Calm isn't passive. It's disciplined. It's the result of not needing the room to approve of you. And the irony is, the less you seek control over the room, the more influence you quietly gain. This is the foundation of presence. Without it, everything else becomes performance. With it, attraction begins before a single word is spoken. Number 2, moving slower than everyone else. Your body is speaking long before your mouth ever opens. And most men don't realize how loudly they're signaling tension through speed. Watch how the average man moves in social settings. He rushes to sit down. He gestures too quickly. He turns his head fast, scans the room, adjusts himself, reacts. Everything about him says, "I'm trying to keep up." And beneath that speed is a quiet admission. He doesn't feel centered. Fast movement doesn't communicate confidence. It communicates urgency. And urgency almost always reads as chasing. A man who moves slower sends the opposite message. Not sluggish, not awkward, intentional, measured. He takes a step like he chose to take it. He reaches for something like he's not afraid of being watched. His movements don't ask for permission from the environment. What his body is saying is simple. I'm not late to my own life. Nothing here owns me. This matters because women don't assess men the way men assess themselves. They don't start with words or credentials. The brain reads physical cues first. Pace, rhythm, control. Before logic kicks in, her subconscious is already deciding whether you feel grounded or reactive. Slow movement signals self-trust. It tells her you're not internally scrambling. You're not trying to catch up to the moment. You're already inside it. And here's an important distinction most men miss. Moving slowly is not the same as moving timidly. Timidity is hesitant. It's unsure. It pauses because it's afraid of making the wrong move. Confident slowness is decisive. It's calm because it knows where it's going. Women feel that difference immediately. When a man moves like he's in charge of his internal state, her nervous system relaxes. Not because he's entertaining, but because he feels stable. Competence is read through consistency, not speed. And the body registers competence faster than the mind can explain it. This is why a man who slows down often ends up commanding more attention without asking for it. While others rush to be noticed, he creates space. And space creates gravity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men move fast because they're afraid of being invisible. But the irony is, speed makes you blend in. Calm, deliberate motion separates you from the noise. You don't need bigger gestures. You don't need to perform. You don't need to do more. You need to slow down enough that your presence can land. Because when your body moves like it's not chasing the moment, attraction stops feeling forced and starts feeling inevitable. Number 3, eye contact without wanting anything. This is where most men quietly lose power without ever realizing it. On the surface, eye contact seems simple. Look at her, hold it, smile. But what women actually respond to isn't the eye contact itself. It's the intention behind it. And intention is impossible to hide. Most men look at women hoping for something. Approval, a smile back, a signal that they're welcome. Even if they don't say it, their eyes ask the question. And the moment that question is felt, attraction starts to drain. Women don't analyze this logically. They sense it. Before words, before meaning, her nervous system picks up on neediness. And neediness collapses polarity. Real eye contact doesn't chase. It doesn't demand. It doesn't lean forward emotionally. It simply exists. You look because you choose to, not because you're waiting for a reaction. That difference is subtle, but it's everything. When a man holds eye contact without trying to get something back, it interrupts her expectations. She's used to men looking at her with hunger, curiosity, or hope. But when none of that is there, when your gaze is steady, grounded and complete on its own, her brain has to pause. That pause is powerful. Psychologically, this creates what's called a pattern interrupt. Her subconscious doesn't know where to place you. You're not avoiding her, and you're not chasing her. You're present, but self-contained. And that combination reads as dominance without threat. This is important. Dominance that feels aggressive triggers defense. Dominance that feels calm triggers curiosity. And here's the truth, bomb most men aren't ready for. The moment you want something from her, attention, validation, reassurance, the power dynamic flips. You're no longer choosing. You're asking. Women feel that instantly. And once they feel it, they can't unfeel it. But when you look at her without expectation, something shifts. She starts wondering instead, who is this man who isn't trying to extract anything from me? Why doesn't he react the way other men do? Now the direction of attention changes. Instead of you trying to read her, she starts reading you. Instead of you hoping to be remembered, you become the moment that lingers. Not because you did something impressive, but because you didn't need anything from her to feel complete. That's what real eye contact communicates. Not confidence as a performance, but confidence as a state. And once a woman feels that, attraction no longer feels like something you're trying to create. It becomes something that quietly begins forming on its own. In her mind, in her body, without permission or explanation. Number 4. Pausing before you speak. Silence makes most men uncomfortable, not because they have nothing to say, but because silence forces them to sit with themselves. And instead of holding it, they rush to fill it. They explain too much. They talk too fast. They volunteer information no one asked for. They mistake constant speech for confidence, when in reality, it's anxiety trying to escape through words. A man who pauses before he speaks sends a very different signal. That pause says he's not afraid of the space between moments. He's not scrambling to be understood. He's choosing his words instead of spilling them. And that choice communicates something deeper than eloquence ever could. Cognitive control. In social dynamics, the person who can tolerate silence holds authority. Leaders pause. Strategists pause. Men who trust themselves don't rush to prove relevance through noise. This isn't about playing games or acting mysterious. It's about self-respect. When you pause, you're signaling that your words matter enough to be placed carefully. You're not performing for approval. You're speaking because you decided it was worth speaking. Women respond to this more than men realize. A man who speaks less, but with intention, is perceived as deeper. His words land with more weight. Not because they're louder or cleverer, but because they aren't diluted. When he finally speaks, she listens. Not out of politeness, but out of interest. Here's the crucial distinction. Silence rooted in confidence feels grounded. Silence rooted in fear feels tense. Women can tell the difference instantly. A confident pause is relaxed. The body stays open. The energy stays neutral. There's no internal panic about being judged. Fearful silence, on the other hand, is rigid. It's tight. It's waiting for permission. Most men don't realize how often they talk to avoid being misunderstood. But over-explaining doesn't create clarity. It creates weakness. It signals that you're worried about how you're being perceived. And here's the warning most men ignore. Every time you rush to fill silence, you give away leverage. You teach people, and women especially, that you're uncomfortable not being needed. Pausing before you speak reclaims that leverage. It tells her you're not dependent on her reaction to feel solid. You're centered whether she responds or not. And that self-containment changes the entire dynamic. Because when a man isn't trying to earn attention through words, his presence starts doing the work for him. And attraction stops being something he pushes. It becomes something that quietly forms in the space he knows how to hold. Number 5. Keeping a calm, unreadable face. Women observe far more than they reveal, especially when you're not speaking. While most men are focused on saying the right thing, women are reading microsignals. Facial tension, emotional reactivity, how quickly you mirror their expressions. And those signals tell her more about your inner state than any words ever could. An overly expressive face gives everything away. Every reaction, every approval, every emotional shift. And when nothing is held back, there's nothing left to discover. From a biological standpoint, predictability kills attention. The nervous system locks onto what it can't fully map. An unreadable face introduces uncertainty, not confusion, but intrigue. And intrigue is the doorway to curiosity. When a man's face stays calm, composed, and emotionally regulated, it creates contrast. She can't immediately tell what you're thinking. She can't instantly place where she stands with you. And that ambiguity generates tension, the kind that pulls attention inward instead of pushing it away. Most men sabotage this without realizing it. They smile too fast, react too quickly, mirror her emotions in real time as a way to build rapport. But excessive mirroring doesn't create connection. It communicates eagerness. It tells her you're tracking her reactions more than your own internal state. A calm face does the opposite. It says you're not emotionally hijacked by the moment. You're present, but you're not reactive. You're engaged, but you're not leaking your internal world. That restraint is powerful. Here's where dopamine comes in. The brain rewards unpredictability when it's paired with safety. When your reactions aren't automatic, every response becomes meaningful. A subtle smile, a raised eyebrow, a shift in expression. When it finally happens, it lands harder, because it wasn't guaranteed. She didn't receive it for free, and what isn't free is valued. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. That's a misunderstanding insecure men cling to. Emotional suppression isn't strength. Self-regulation is. The difference is internal. You're not withholding to manipulate. You're grounded enough that you don't need to broadcast everything you feel. Women feel that distinction immediately. A calm, unreadable face tells her you're not seeking emotional permission. You're not trying to be liked. You're not outsourcing your state to her reactions. You're stable within yourself. And stability paired with mystery is rare. When a man can hold his emotional center without display, attraction doesn't need encouragement. It builds naturally, because her attention keeps circling back, trying to read what you're not giving away. Number 6, leaving without explanation. This is where most men lose attraction, not because they did something wrong, but because they stayed too long. Watch how insecure behavior shows up at the end of interactions, over-explaining why you're leaving, apologizing for having somewhere else to be, softening your exit so no one misunderstands you, seeking reassurance that you'll still be liked once you're gone. All of that communicates the same thing. You don't fully own your time. A man who leaves cleanly sends a very different message. He doesn't justify his exit. He doesn't narrate his schedule. He doesn't ask permission to disengage. He simply decides and moves. What that communicates beneath the surface is powerful. I have a life. I have direction. And this moment does not define me. Women feel this immediately, not because leaving is dramatic, but because it's rare. Most men linger until attention runs out. They try to stretch the moment. They drain it dry. And in doing so, they erase tension. Attraction needs space to breathe. From a psychological standpoint, this taps directly into what's known as the Zeigarnik effect, the brain's tendency to fixate on things that feel unfinished. When an interaction ends cleanly, without emotional closure, her mind stays engaged, not out of anxiety, but curiosity. She didn't get the full picture. She didn't get reassurance. She didn't get to settle the emotional energy. And that unresolved space becomes a loop her mind keeps returning to. This is where most men panic. They confuse withdrawal with loss. They think stepping away will make them forgettable. But the opposite is true. A man who can leave without explanation isn't rejecting her. He's demonstrating independence. He's showing that his emotional center doesn't depend on constant connection. And that autonomy is deeply attractive. Here's the truth bomb most men never confront. Attraction doesn't collapse because you weren't impressive enough. It collapses because you couldn't let go. Men overstay. They over-message. They over-clarify. They destroy polarity by refusing to release control. But real control isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to step back. Leaving without explanation isn't about playing hard to get. It's about not being afraid to lose the moment. Because the man who isn't afraid to walk away is the man who owns the interaction. This behavior sits at the top of the hierarchy for a reason. It requires everything that came before it: calm, self-trust, regulation, presence. You can't fake it, and you can't force it. When a man knows how to withdraw without emotional residue, attraction doesn't end when he leaves. It often begins after. Because what lingers isn't what you said. It's the space you left behind. And that space is where desire grows. Attraction isn't something you manufacture. It isn't created by saying the right thing, timing the perfect text, or proving your value in real time. The men women respond to most aren't louder, funnier, or more impressive. They're steadier, quieter, more self-contained. These 6 behaviors were never about performance. They were about regulation, about how you carry yourself when nothing is being demanded of you, about whether your nervous system is grounded or constantly seeking permission. When you stay calm while others react, you create contrast. When you slow your movements, you signal control. When you make eye contact without needing anything back, you reverse the chase. When you pause before speaking, your words gain weight. When your face stays composed, curiosity builds. And when you know how to leave without explanation, you demonstrate the one thing most men lack: the ability to let go. That's what women feel. Not confidence as a concept, but confidence as a state. Attraction doesn't happen because you try harder. It happens when you stop asking the world to validate you. Women don't fall for noise. They respond to the man who controls himself, especially when no one is watching. If this changed how you see attraction, subscribe to the channel. If you recognized yourself in one of these behaviors you've been doing wrong, leave a comment. And if you know a man who keeps chasing instead of centering himself, share this with him, even if he's not ready to hear it yet. Because the moment you stop trying to be chosen is often the moment attraction finally begins.